What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into TTP Sports, and very eventful day in terms of Philadelphia sports. There's a lot of stuff to break down over the course of the next few days here. Man, Phillies news, Eagles news, ongoing Flyers game recaps, and everything like that. But I think, right now after everything that just happened, the press conference and everything for Jason Kelce with the Eagles and everything there, I think that's probably the best thing to start with here, just for pure reaction state and just, gotta get the emotions out, gotta get the feels out, because that was very heartfelt, very sad, very emotional. It hit deep, man. It really hit deep. There are definitely some things that I do want to poke from the Jason Kelce press conference, because there definitely is some talking points, even circling around the current Eagles squad. But just over the course of Jason Kelce's career, talking about Jeff Statland, talking about when being first drafted by the Eagles, talking about, his, in his terms, his horrible 2016 campaign, where, basically everybody in Philadelphia and in the Eagles organization wanted him gone, and Jeff Statland was the one that really helped them shape into what he is today. All the All Pros, being one of the best centers to ever play the game. It's incredible stuff, man, and that speech, overall. I'm just sad. I think I'm just sad that it's. I think we expected this day basically to come at any certain point. This has mainly been the talking points surrounding every Eagles offseason for the past couple of years now. Okay, is Kelce retiring this year? Oh, he's coming back this year, but is this season going to be his last season? Is it the next season going to be his last season? When is Jason Kelce finally going to hang up the cleats? And I think we got a little bit of the hint after the playoff loss against Tampa Bay a couple of months ago, when, the big hug with him and Jeff Stoutland. I think the writing was on the wall, and there were some hints basically throughout the weeks since then hinting at that, and then basically some, confusion along the way. Oh, is he actually not going to retire? Is he going to return? And basically just still waiting to come to this decision. Kelce wanted to go out on his own terms. He didn't want, something else stating that he was going to retire, and I think this probably was the perfect way for him to go out, with the Eagles, letting him do all this and just getting it out there, getting it on, to the public, to the Philadelphia fans. I think that was probably the perfect way to do it. And it just really embodies who Jason is as a person, what he has meant to this organization, what he has meant to this fan base and to this city, and how much he is connected to this city, and how much he has won with the city of Philadelphia and its people. It really cuts deep, man. He loves this organization to death. He loves this city to death. And just him talking about the city, him talking about the Eagles organization, him talking about his family, Travis, his wife, Kylie, and everything there, his mother, his father, all of his coaches going back to college and everything like that. Man has been through a lot of ups and downs throughout his career, and he really stated basically near the end of his press conference that he was an underdog through and through, and he just cherished in proving people wrong. And that's basically what he did his entire career. And I think a lot of that summed up from the 2017, Super Bowl parade speech. Basically, he said that speech wasn't from him. That speech embodied the city of Philadelphia. Man. It's heart-wrenching, man, that it's just finally over. That, like I said, we all knew this was eventually going to happen. It doesn't make it any easier. It doesn't make it any easier just to see the raw emotion that Kelce goes through during this entire press conference. Like, if you go watch the beginning of the press conference, it takes him like at least 2, 3, 4 minutes to even start saying anything, because the waterworks start pouring down his face. Like, that's how much this decision was getting to him. That's how much he was able to let all those emotions come all out. And I'm sure it was a very difficult decision for him. But this is probably what's best for him, probably what's best for his family, his wife, his daughters, in terms of everything there. Sometimes you just got to know when to hang it up. Even if you still believe your body's in the perfect physical condition, there's just, at some points where you got to call it quits, where you got to look, further into your life, on to live a quality life away from football. Sometimes you got to think about that aspect. And Kelce has been basically going through this for the past couple of seasons now, and he finally came to that decision. I do personally think if the Eagles did win the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, I think that's when Kelce would have hung it up. But I did think he came back for the extra year just to try to come back and win another one, try to get back to that Super Bowl. And then, eventually the entire collapse happened, and this is where we stand. I do think he would have retired after if they won that Super Bowl. But this is where we are right now, and Kelce is officially retired from the National Football League as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. And sucks. It's funny too, like throughout that entire speech, I guess you were just like kind of waiting for him to say that I'm officially retiring. It took him like 30 plus minutes into the speech to finally say he was retiring. So that was kind of funny. I was like kind of waiting for him to like do the ball busting moment to say, and without further ado, I'm not retiring. I'm coming back, you son of a bitches. But that wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to happen. Like seriously, when you saw on Twitter this morning basically, that he was setting up a press conference, no beer cakes or anything like that. It was just all serious, all business. You basically knew what was going. We all basically knew what was coming. He was retiring. That was basically it. It sucks. It really sucks. And it's hard not to shed a tear while listening to that entire speech, just because of his entire time here in Philadelphia, lifelong Eagle. He's going to be basically down as a top 2 Eagle in franchise history. Him and Brian Dawkins. I would assume those two, those are the top 2 that ever put on the Eagles uniform. He is up there. Jason Kelce is definitely up there. Dude is part of this city. He is part of this city's culture. He's a part of everything here. Lives here with his family. Now, what does he do after football? Does he come back, coaching or anything like that, broadcast? I'm not sure. I'm sure he's going to find his way back into football in some shape or form, whether that's coaching, whether that's broadcasting. But, now's not really the time to talk about that. Right now, enjoy your retirement, and whatever happens next happens next. Enjoy time with your family. Enjoy time with your wife, your kids, your parents, and all that stuff. Enjoy life outside of football. And that eventual day when he is eligible to make the Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famer, I wouldn't be shocked if the Eagles retire his number next year. It's definitely going to be a lot of, stuff surrounding this Eagles squad. And in terms of the Eagles in general, yeah, it's going to be insanely difficult to replace the Jason Kelce, because he has been basically the mold of that offensive line for so many years. For so many years. It's hard to replace that. And I'm sure it's going to be very difficult. I know with Cam Jurgens and all that stuff, Jason Kelce basically hand-selected him from the draft to be his replacement, so I'm sure that'll be the case. I still think this offensive line is in a good spot, because I still believe there's still talent on that offensive line to still be a dynamic offensive line. There's still a very good offensive line, regardless of what many people thought from last year's collapse. I still think that is, staying in the minds of people, which is rightfully so, because it was a historic collapse, and there's got to be ways to figure out why that happened. And I also do want to bring up because I did say this in the beginning, I do think one of his lines in his speech was kind of revealing to him basically talking to the current Eagles that are in the locker room right now, because there's just been so much going on in terms of, because right now I think the franchise and the city, the fan base, I think there's a little bit of disconnect right here, and it all really stems from the collapse, because Eagles were 10-1, riding that high, finding ways to win games, regardless of some people nitpicking the way they were winning games and the way they looked on the field. They were still finding ways to win games, and they started off 10-1. It was kind of hard to look the other way. And then the 49ers game happened, and then it was just a complete downhill spiral the entire way. Ever since then, it's been basically a battle between the media and the team, a battle between the fan base and the team. You know, the whole A.J. Brown nonsense, him not speaking to the media, and then him calling in the 94 WIP a couple of weeks ago to try to clear the air and all of that stuff because, you know, there were so many trade rumors developing around him and how he just doesn't like talking to the media and all that stuff, how they create fake news, how they create fake rumors and all of that stuff. That's another time for I really just didn't want to get into all that stuff because it just kind of bothered me. That was basically it. And then you get, you know, a couple of days ago when it surfaces on Twitter with, you know, Darius Slay's podcast with Steven Nelson and all that stuff, talking about, you know, the Philadelphia fan base and how it's very difficult to play here in Philadelphia. That, you know, talking about like, oh, I've never seen a home crowd boo at their home team before, and how coming out of the tunnel they're booing you right there, or when I make a huge stop on a third down they're still booing me, or I'm basically paying attention to the fans that are sitting 5 rows behind me because they're spurting out things and they're trash talking me. Well, I want to try to prove those fans wrong instead of just focusing on trying to help the team win. Sounds like they're more focused on the noise that is outside of the team, the noise outside in the social media landscape, on, you know, the radio, the fan base and all that stuff, the anger from the fan base. It just really feels like they're little too focused on the outside noise. I wouldn't even say a little too focused on, they are heavily focused on that. It does stem to, you know, Nick Sirianni as well, just the way that he goes about himself when, you know, when you see him, you know, going after Chiefs fans after the Eagles beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead and all that stuff, and how, you know, he was screaming at them, see ya, and all that stuff, don't hear you talking about me now, all that crap. Well, when a head coach does that, it does tend to rub off on your locker room, and that's how maybe some of the mentality of the players become. Well, this, you know, quote right here by Jason Kelce is pretty damning, and I think basically he's talking to the team through this speech. And I do hope that some of the teammates own up to it. I really hope so. I really hope it opens their eyes, but, you know, we never know here. And before I even read the statement, like, yes, I know Steven Nelson, all that stuff. They brought up, you know, it's bad for my mental health and all that stuff. I can completely understand that on that standpoint. Mental health is very important to be and very important to take care of. But it just kind of felt like that entire podcast and that entire stuff that was surfacing on Twitter, it was really just more of the negative side of the Philadelphia fan base. When you play in Philadelphia, yes, we're hard on you. It's because we have high expectations for you. We want you to go out there and give 150%. We want you to go out there and show that you care. Give effort. Put everything on the line. Be good quality product out there. We want you to go out there and win. We want you, you know, the show that you give a damn. And if you show all that stuff, yeah, we'll cherish you. We'll love you to all the heart's content. But if you go out there, give excuses, don't try your hardest, and you're just, you know, complaining the entire time, yeah, we're not going to like you, and we're going to show our discontent. And if you show us garbage, we're not going to treat you the right way. We're just not. That's not how it works. Can't, you know, constantly give this team a pat on the back saying that, oh, it's, you know, get them next year and all that stuff. Shit happens. No, they went through a historic collapse. There's got to be a reason why they went through a historic collapse. Can't just be, oh, we'll get them next year, rah-rah and all that stuff. No. It's unacceptable. You can't start 10-1 and then collapse the way that you did. There's reasons behind it, and us as a fan base, we're trying to get to the bottom of it, and then stop trying to, you know, spew excuses at us and trying to put us in the blame. We just want answers. We just want the truth. We want you to prove to us that you're good, because expectations was to go back to the Super Bowl and possibly win a Super Bowl, regardless of what the stats say about how hard it is to get back there, especially after you're lost. I understand that. But when you have expectations, you got to live up to them. And this Eagles team did not live up to those expectations. And in the process and through the fire, they threw excuses on that fire and made it burn even more, which puts us into the predicament that we are today, where it feels like there's just a huge disconnect between the fans and the team. And now officially getting to this Jason Kelce statement. So he says that some people struggle to play in the city. They can't handle the boos, the media, or our fans. I consider it a blessing to play in the most passionate sports town in America. If you're not performing, they will let you know. But as long as you show effort, they will love you. They're not going to accept your excuses and soft-ass nonsense. I think that statement is damning, man. I think it is damning on that entire front, on that locker room. And I really hope that some people in this Eagles locker room, in this Eagles organization, wake the hell up and realize that, oh shit, our fans aren't the problem. Our media's not the problem. We're the problem. And we're just finding ways to point the finger. Because that's what it just feels like. It really is. And I hate constantly bringing up all that stuff. I do, because this should just be, honoring Kelce and all that stuff on his fantastic career. But it's kind of hard not to, connect the dots and all that stuff, because I feel like the writing is there on the wall. I feel like it's right there. It just is. But going back to Kelce and everything like there, I feel like the thing that really hit deep was, besides all the Super Bowl stuff, it was basically talking about his 2016 season and how terrible it was for him. On basically, no one in the city believed him. No one in the Eagles organization believed him besides one person, and that was Jeff Stoutland. Jeff Stoutland was the one that believed in him. He was the one that helped revitalize his game, find ways to get better, find ways to improve. And then basically, after that, and this was after Jason Kelce turned 30. So you're thinking to yourself, an offensive lineman at 30, how many more years does he even have left in the NFL? After 30 years old, and after this, conversations that he had with Jeff Stoutland after this season, dude completely turned his career around. Became a 6-time first team and All-Pro, made so many Pro Bowls, won the Super Bowl, completely changed his name in the city of Philadelphia, became fan favorite, became an all-time great, became a first ballot Hall of Famer, became one of the best centers to ever play the game. After one season of where he thought he was done, in an Eagles uniform, he thought he was going to get traded. And he even said it to himself that he was in charge, he probably would have traded himself. That's how hard he was on himself during that entire season. Man. It's hard, man. And just watching him just break down, man, it's tough to watch. It was tough to watch. And it's just, on the past couple of years, on debating whether he was going to retire or not, the dude still came back and played at an elite level. That's just unheard of. To where you're always debating, you're always going through the conversations of whether I'm going to hang the cleats up, whether I'm going to hang the jersey up, the helmet, the gloves, everything like that, the pads. And then you just come back another year, you still dominate. That's just something special that Jason Kelce provided. The leadership, being in the city for so long, understanding our fan base, becoming one with the city. He is the embodiment of what a Philadelphia athlete is supposed to be. He is the embodiment of what the Philadelphia fan base loves. Goes out there, tries to prove people wrong, gives you 150% every single time. Doesn't give you excuses. Tells it as it is. And that's all we need to know. Tell us how it is. And we could find a way to understand it. And we'll appreciate you more because of it. Don't give us excuses. Like your team has been doing for the past so many months. We just want answers. We want to find out reasons why you collapsed. We want you to get better because we still have belief that you can be a good team. Just don't give us any half-assed stuff. Tell us how it is. Even though they're never going to. No really organization tells you how it is. But don't put the blame on us. Meaning players, putting blame on the media, talking shit about the fan base. If you're trying to talk one side about the fan base on how bad it is to play here, you got to tell both sides of the story. That's one thing Darius Slay in his podcast failed to mention. What Jason Kelce said, that's the other side of the coin. When you're playing your best, this city's going to love you. This city is going to love you. Look at how much we connect with the Philadelphia Phillies, this city. And it didn't happen like that in an instant. It didn't happen like that when we signed Bryce Harper. It just didn't. Because they were still struggling, underachieving, not making the playoffs. This is after just signing Bryce Harper, bringing in JT and all that stuff. Fans still didn't believe in that team. And even in the first year that they made the playoffs, they were collapsing in that month of September. And we were like, oh, just typical Phillies. They're collapsing in September. They're going to find their way out of the playoffs. And it's going to be the same old story once again. Then they get in the playoffs on the last possible second. Big comeback in that wild card game against the Cardinals. They go on a run from there. And then last season, didn't collapse. They found a way to pull through. Get into the playoffs once again. Yeah, didn't live up to expectations, but once again, another deep playoff run. We found ways to connect with this team when we originally thought they were an unlikable bunch. But through the playoff runs and through the success, we found ways to love this team. We found ways to connect with the players. With Harper, with Schwarber, with JT, with Nola, with Wheeler, Bohm, Stott, Marsh, all that stuff. We found ways to connect. And now we're talking about how Citizens Bank Park is one of the most electric atmospheres to play in during a playoff. That's what we want with the Eagles. And yeah, we experienced it during the Super Bowl run last year and so many years before that. But right now, it just feels like it's a huge disconnect when they're talking about how the link is too loud. Too loud. That's just telling. And granted, maybe it's just the way the players are at this point in age. Because yes, we're in a different age where players need to be treated a certain way. And most times you can't be a hard ass towards these players because they have more personality, they're more diva-ish, and everything like that, they're more entitled. So yeah, it's definitely a different generation of athletes, 100%. But I think what Kelce stated, I think just speaks wonders about this entire team. I think it does. I think it does. Just sucks. It just does. Man. What an interesting day. What an interesting day. Sucks. Too emotional. Too sad. Hopefully this team can figure out a way without Kelce. But right now, got to appreciate the career that he put for us. Appreciate it. He was an Eagle through and through. He was a Philadelphian through and through. Found a way to build himself with this city and with this fan base. And that is something that we will never forget. It definitely isn't. It sucks that it ended the way that it did with the collapse. But I'm sure he wouldn't have it any other way. I'm sure of it. We do have a voicemail here on the Anytime Hotline. This is from Sean. So he kind of combined this with his Zach Wheeler thoughts. So I'm going to play the latter half of this call from Sean, and then when we do the Phillies Zach Wheeler talk eventually, which I'm either going to record today or record tomorrow. It just depends on when I can get to it. We'll put that up there. But for right now, let's get to Sean. What does he have to say about the Kelce retirement? I'm not sure if he listened to the retirement or the press conference, so this might be before or this might be after. So, well, we'll just have to wait and see.
Now, as far as Kelce goes, again, I'm calling in advance of the press conference. Not going to definitively state he's going to retire at this point, but it's looking that way. What I say is this. I just think it would be ironic. You know, Kelce retires, Fletcher Cox rumored to be retiring, and if Brandon Graham decides, you know what, even though I wanted to play this year, I'm going to hang it up, 3 players who would retire at the same time who all played for one organization. In any sport, that's rare, but that to me would be unprecedented. Jason Kelce, if he does announce his retirement, look, we'll see him in Canton in a couple years. Great career. Glad he at least got one title before he hung it up. A legend in the city.
That actually is a good point about Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. I forgot about the rumors that Fletch might retire. He might be considering retirement. And the same thing with Brandon Graham. There were even questions about that after the season ended as well, that he thinks he has one more season in him before he retires. That is a very good thought, you know. Jason Kelce, career-long Eagle. Brandon Graham, career-long Eagle. Fletcher Cox, career-long Eagle. You know, we're getting close to the end of those guys' careers too. Like we said, you know, Fletch might retire even before the season starts, and who knows what's going to happen with Brandon Graham. Even the same thing with Lane Johnson. How many more years does Lane Johnson have left in the tank? Even though he did say, I believe, at the end of the season that he still has a good few more seasons left of his career in the tank. So I think we're still good on the Lane front until the foreseeable future. But, you know, that really is a rare thing when you have so many guys that are lifelong players of your team and they all retire as only playing for one franchise their entire career. Yeah, that definitely is a very rare feat. And I guess that can show you the success that this Eagles team has had during their franchise's, you know, existence in terms of that. It definitely would suck. It definitely would sting to have, you know, it definitely would be as sad to see that this part of that era of Eagles football to come and go, basically, and then sliding into this new era with a lot of the younger faces. That'll definitely be a weird sight to, you know, unfold for that. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see whatever happens on that front. If, you know, Fletcher's going to retire, if Brandon Graham's going to give it one more go, yeah, it'll definitely be a weird feeling. I'm not going to lie. It will be 100% a weird feeling. Yeah, it definitely is. Man. What a day. What a day. Still in the feels, basically. I think that's basically what it is. Still in the feels. But good for Jason. Good for his family. Hope he enjoys his retirement. I'm sure he finds his way back into football in some way, shape, or form. The dude just, you know, bleeds the sport. I'm sure he'll find his way back in here somewhat, whether that's working for the Eagles organization as a coach or something like that, or he finds himself in the broadcast booth. I could see either of those two happening. But for right now, he's going to enjoy his retirement, and the Eagles are going to have to figure out a lot of things as we get closer to the draft and the rest of this offseason. So, yeah, for the time being, definitely leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below on this entire situation with Jason Kelce, retirement and all that stuff. I would like to hear your thoughts down there. Don't forget to drop a like on the video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service. Also use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SEATGEEK. Great deal. Don't pass it up. Thank you guys for tuning into this whenever you decide to. Good luck to Jason Kelce in his retirement. Gonna miss him. And I'll see you guys next time.